On the morning of January 15, 2009, Captain Chesley Sullenberger had coffee with his first officer. They talked about the weather, normal stuff, small talk before another routine flight. 3 minutes later, he'd have to land a plane with no engines in the middle of New York City. U.S. Airways Flight 1549 pushed back from the gate at LaGuardia just after 3 p.m. 155 people on board, families heading home, business travelers, a mother with a 9-month-old baby on her lap. It was a crisp winter afternoon, clear skies, perfect flying weather. First Officer Jeffrey Skiles was actually piloting that day. This was his first flight on an Airbus A320 since completing his training. Captain Sullenberger sat in the left seat, monitoring. Everything was textbook. The plane climbed smoothly over the Bronx. Inside, passengers settled in. Some pulled out laptops. Others closed their eyes for a nap. Flight attendants Donna Dent, Doreen Welsh, and Sheila Dale began preparing the cabin for the short flight to Charlotte. Nobody knew they had less than 2 minutes. At exactly 3:27 p.m., the Airbus reached 2,800 feet. Then, a sound. Not an explosion, more like a series of deep, heavy thumps. Passengers near the windows saw something dark pass by, a flock of Canada geese, dozens of them. The birds hit both engines. Captain Sullenberger felt the impact through the controls. He looked at the engine displays. Both were failing. The cockpit filled with a burning smell. Passengers heard the engines winding down, that horrible descending whine. And then, silence. Complete, unnatural silence. No engine hum, no vibration, just the sound of wind rushing past the fuselage. Sullenberger took the controls. 3 words, "My aircraft." Skiles immediately began running the emergency checklist. Dual engine failure. They tried to restart. Nothing. The plane was now a 70-ton glider, dropping toward one of the most densely populated areas on Earth. Air traffic control offered a return to LaGuardia. Sullenberger looked at his altitude, his speed, the distance. He ran the calculations in his head. They wouldn't make it. Teterboro Airport in New Jersey also offered, also impossible. In the cabin, flight attendant Donna Dent noticed something was wrong. The plane was too quiet, too steep. She looked out and saw the George Washington Bridge at eye level. Sullenberger's voice came over the PA, calm, clear. "This is the captain. Brace for impact." That's all he said. Passengers bent forward, heads down, hands locked behind their necks. Some prayed, some called loved ones, most just waited. The flight attendants began shouting, "Brace! Brace! Heads down! Stay down!" Through the cockpit window, Sullenberger saw the Hudson River. He had one chance. He pulled the nose up slightly, trying to bleed off speed without stalling. Too fast, and the plane would break apart. Too slow, and it would drop like a stone. The flight attendants kept shouting. Passengers gripped their seats. Then, impact. The Airbus hit the water at 150 miles per hour. The sound was enormous, a massive, violent splash that sent water exploding across the river. The tail hit hard. The fuselage flexed but held together. Inside, it felt like hitting a wall. Passengers were thrown forward. Overhead bins popped open. The cabin filled with the sounds of rushing water, alarms, screaming. But they were down, and the plane was floating. For now. Water poured in through a tear in the rear fuselage. It flooded the back rows within seconds. Passengers scrambled toward the wings. The flight attendants, bruised and shaken, immediately began evacuating. "Get out! Move! Keep moving!" The emergency exits opened, the slides deployed. People climbed onto the wings in 36-degree water. Some jumped into the river, others huddled together, holding on. Passengers formed human chains, pulling each other up. Within 4 minutes, ferries were racing toward the plane. New York Waterway, the Coast Guard, NYPD boats. Strangers became rescuers, pulling freezing people out of the water. Captain Sullenberger walked the cabin twice, checking every row, every bathroom, making sure no one was left behind. He was the last one off. All 155 people survived. They call it the miracle on the Hudson. But here's the thing, it wasn't magic. It was training, experience, a 57-year-old pilot who'd flown gliders as a teenager, a crew that stayed calm when everything went wrong, passengers who helped each other instead of panicking, and maybe just a little bit of luck, because Sullenberger had 208 seconds from bird strike to water landing, 3.5 minutes to make every decision perfectly. One wrong choice, and this story ends differently. The plane sits in a museum now in Charlotte. You can see the tear in the fuselage, the missing engines, the worn seats where people sat and waited to die and didn't. Sometimes I think about that mother with the 9-month-old baby. That baby is a teenager now. All because on a cold January afternoon, everything went right when everything went wrong.